All right, so I am with two of my favorite political comics, Felicia Michaels and Jimmy Dore. Most of you guys probably recognize them from our old show, but they are new to the all-new Rubin Report. What do you think of this?
It's beautiful.
These digs, come on.
You have a great apartment.
Pretty sweet. Jimmy, we have a jib. There is a camera flying around. You love the jib.
I do love the jib.
You once told me the comedy is 90% jib.
90% jib and 10% eyebrow raising.
Ah, all right. Well, then we're in good shape. So what I wanted to start, we're going to do all... That was good. That was good. So we're going to do all politics.
All right, let's go.
Purposely brought you guys on for politics.
Let's go.
I know you guys love politics. So unfortunately, we have to start with Donald Trump. I hate that we have to start this way, but I feel that we do because this is the thing that has just consumed everything. So I guess I'll just open it sort of evenly. What do you make of this Trump madness?
You know, the thing that irritates me most about Donald Trump is how all my liberal friends are freaking out. You know what I mean? They're, oh, he's going to get his hands on the button. You know, all that kind of rhetoric. And it's like, would you nut up? The only way he's going to get his hands on the button is if that's what his wife calls his penis. You know what I mean? It's just so crazy.
So you don't think he's going to become the president?
No,
you have no fears that this actually could be legit?
Well, I think anything is possible. I hope he doesn't become president. And, I mean, it's scary, the people that are attracted to him. That scares me, you know, that he gives a voice to that. That's frightening.
Yeah, so we'll get to those people in a second because I do want to talk about them. But do you think this thing is real? I've been saying for months, I think he's going to do 3 debates, and we've already done 2, but I think he's going to get to 3. He's still going to be peaking in the rankings, and then he's going to say, I moved the dial, I'm out, and then he's going to be the attack dog for whoever the nominee is. That's my basic prediction.
You know,
do you think this is real?
Well, say what you want about Donald Trump. He does make the racism run on time. What I do actually enjoy listening to Donald Trump speak is because every once in a while, you know, I'm in the mood to watch a Hitler documentary, but I want to hear it delivered by Gary Busey. So that's why I'm really...
He's part Hitler, part Gary Busey. That kind of works.
Donald Trump, I predicted he would go away. He doesn't really want to be president. He doesn't really want to do anything. He doesn't want to have to read up on anything. He doesn't want to have to learn anything. He doesn't want to have to, but...
So is that the craziest part of this? Because did you see about a week ago he was on this radio show?
Yes,
I think it was with Hugh
Hewitt.
And he asked him the difference between Hamas and Hezbollah. Anyone that knows anything about world politics, anything, you don't have to know a lot to know that these are very different groups. One is in Gaza, one is in Lebanon and Syria, and he made it sound like it was a gotcha question.
Yes.
But is that the genius of him, that he turns everything into, you see what the media is doing to me? Is that the real genius of this?
That's not the genius thing of Donald Trump.
Yeah, what? Tell me the genius
I mean,
part.
here's the thing. I would think the average American doesn't know the difference between those two factions, and it's complicated and everything's intertwined. It's not a gotcha question. Anyone who's running for office should know those answers.
Yeah.
And the fact that he can just keep going at it and not taking any responsibility for what he doesn't know, that's frightening, you know, and that people don't call him out more.
Right, so all right, so let's talk about the people that you mentioned, these people that are digging this, because I know you rant and rave about politics all the time. You hate the system, right? I hate the system. And what I think people are attracted to is that he's calling the system out on their bullshit. So should we at least grant him that much? That he has, you know, in the first debate when he said, well, I donated money to Hillary, so she showed up to my wedding. Like, we should give him a little credit on that kind of thing, right?
Yes, he gets a little credit on that. But you said what the genius of Donald Trump is that the genius is that he knows to appeal to people who are not geniuses.
Right.
Right, so he's not appealing to smart people, just like Ben Carson, right? So Ben Carson also, but I respect Ben Carson more than I do Donald Trump, and I don't respect Ben Carson at all.
Right.
So there you go.
So Trump's in negative territory.
Yeah, so I mean, so what he's doing is he's gaining more support, Ben Carson, ironically, with racists, but not gaining support with other neurosurgeons. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Well, right. Well, first off, just Ben Carson real quick. I mean, can a neurosurgeon not believe in evolution? Wouldn't that be a warrant to take your license away?
The stuff that he said a couple of weeks ago that the #1 killer of African Americans are abortions. And when he said that, I literally was like, are cops giving abortions now? That's so crazy.
Right.
That is so insane.
So what do we do with this whole group? I just said in the intro to this thing that I went to the GOP debate. I talked to a couple of these guys. I think Kasich is sort of a decent guy. I think Marco Rubio is at least in the right line of work, even if I disagree with him on a lot of stuff. But what do you think about Trump's place in this? It seems to me they all seem like children that can't get the attention of their dad. You know, he seems to be dad that's getting all the attention, and the kids can't.
Well, you know, let's go back to his supporters, Donald Trump's. I mean, they're. For instance, women is like when he said Carly Fiorina's face, you can't have that face, and then his poll numbers went up with women who hate themselves.
Yeah.
So that's really and a lot of people won't say the mainstream news media won't call him racist. They'll say his controversial comments on immigration, and they won't call him fascist, which is exactly this is what it looks like, right? So they're charismatic, they're popular, they demonize the immigrants and the people with no money and no power as being the problem, right? They're overly nativist, they're nationalist, they're strong on military. So he's got all those 14 hallmarks. Misogyny is big in fascist regimes, right? And in their culture. And he's pushing the misogynism, right? I don't know if that's a word. And
yeah, that sounded like a word.
So it's amazing. So when I'll say it here, and I say it on my show, that this is what people go, well, how did Hitler happen? Well, he gave a good speech. He didn't have to appeal to that many people. And that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing.
So that really is, so this is just a show, right? Like, to me, this is the ultimate reality show. Is that, at the end of the day, is that really what's happening here?
Yes. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely.
We got his point. Go.
I think that the only thing I want to say about when I watch Donald Trump is the makeup that he has on his face, and I'm being completely serious.
Yeah.
He's had 3 baby mamas. They are all gorgeous women that know how to apply makeup, and the fact that he doesn't turn to his wife or one of the former baby mamas and go, do you think this is too much orange, too much white under the eyes, says to me, this is a person that doesn't give a shit about anyone else's opinion or doesn't care. No, I'm serious. I'm completely serious. Like, to me, as a silly woman that I am, I'm all like, there's something wrong with that guy that he can't turn to his woman and say, what do you think?
Well, you know what's wrong?
He's not going to be able to do that with any subject.
He can't turn to his woman because his women are anchor wives. I don't know if you know.
Last thought on him. I mean, is there something really psychologically sort of void in someone that's answer to everything is, they love me, and I'm going to show you why they.
I look forward to Donald Trump's next speech where he calls another group of people rapists and then ends it with, but they love me.
But they love me. Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's move on to the other one, the other big one, which is Hillary. And to me, it seems like Hillary is running, I think, the worst campaign probably in modern history. Forget the email thing and the inaccessibility of the press. There seems to be just no sort of joy or humanity or sense of who she is or any of that stuff. Are you guys with me on that? What do you think about the campaign itself?
You are correct, Dave. It is horrible. At the beginning of the summer, she said that nobody stands up for progressive values stronger than she does. And then just the other day, she said, hey, I'm a centrist. She's bragging that that's what's wrong with the country, you knucklehead, is that the center has moved to the right. So now when you say you're a centrist, you're actually a Republican from the 90s.
Right.
Okay, and that's the problem. And that's why Bernie Sanders has such traction, and that's why she's doing such a bad job. But I will say the email thing, it just goes to prove you, because they just came out and said that if you don't commit a crime, it will haunt you for the rest of your life.
Okay, so they've said, so I guess the State Department has said that she actually didn't send any classified emails. I don't know what to believe at this point, but to me the whole thing is sort of nonsensical because one day we're just going to have a point where the politicians just won't use email or they won't use any electronic communication, and they're going to do all their bad shit by just talking to people. You know what I mean? Like, so to make it about the emails itself is sort of it's the wound, not really what's the underlying problem.
I don't think necessarily that she's running a terrible campaign. It could be a lot better.
Yeah.
I think when we were talking earlier in the green room and you were saying, what does she stand for? I thought that was a great point because no one knows what does she specifically stand for?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We know,
But how's that
you're
possible?
a Democrat. But
how is
but
that
if you
possible?
Name
This
one
woman...
thing where you were like, what is Hillary like? You can't name one thing that she likes.
Right.
You know?
So I think you basically like her, right? Like pretty
I do
much.
like, and I was telling him earlier, I have a picture of from a gig 15 years ago of Hillary and me in the backstage, and I'm like, I just want her to be president for that picture. I mean, that's a funny answer to the seriousness of the question.
Yeah.
The thing is, she's had so much bad news over the past 2 or 3 months on headlines about Benghazi all the time, about those emails, and it's just insane how much people in America don't want establishment candidates, and that's the problem with her, is she's too establishment. You know, that's why Donald Trump is doing good. That's why Bernie Sanders is doing good. People want something different.
Yeah, so I want to get to Bernie in a sec, but I think you hit on something with the establishment and the media. It seems to me that the media loves Trump because of what we said earlier, this off the prompter thing. Hillary is completely scripted, and I also think the media is sort of digging the fact that Hillary's been around for so long, and she's always had this back and forth with the media, and I think they love just attacking her. That in no way is a defense of her, but how much is just that the media just loves a narrative, and now it's like, we're going to take down this woman.
Yes, that is exactly what, you know, and not that I want to defend Hillary Clinton, but, you know, you have to in this situation, because the New York Times has had like a frickin' vendetta against her over these. And there was nothing. By the way, you talk about email. Hank Paulson, who was the Secretary of the Treasury when everything went belly up, right? When the whole thing cratered, he never even used emails.
Right, and that's my point.
He didn't even use email.
Right.
So that's what your point is like, well, let's make a bigger deal out of her emails, and no one will put anything in an email that's important.
Right, and by the way, we know that even when you lie under oath, we've talked about this 1,000 times, like James Clapper, who was the head of the CIA, and they asked him, are we, you know, doing this mass data collection? And he said, not wittingly, as he was scratching the top of his head, because that's where you scratch when you're making a big lie. Yeah. So we know that even when you lie, right, like they're not going to really do anything.
That makes me laugh, because Pottery Barn does mass data collection. You know what I mean? Everybody does.
They know what you have in your kitchen.
They do know what I have in my kitchen.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to Bernie, because this is the one that I think we should be talking about more, and I've been trying to talk about him more. I think he's talking about the right things, income inequality, which is a huge problem. He's talking about money in politics, which nobody's talking about. As I told you guys earlier, I went to the GOP debate. I literally think I might have been the only person that asked anyone in that room about money in politics. I asked Scott Walker. He went out of the race 2 days later. I mean, that tells you something.
So that goes back to your earlier question about Donald Trump deserves credit for bringing up this issue. Yes, he does expose the cravenness and the emptiness of the political process, right? Or the complete corruption of the political process. But then no reporter ever says, "Hey, what's your plan to fix that?" Nobody ever says, "Hey, that was great the way you showed everybody how you buy all these guys on stage. What's your plan to fix that?"
Right.
And he does. So he's also at the same time revealing the corruption in the political process. He's revealing the corruption in the news media, right? So the news media, Chuck Todd had him on, and he asked him the Muslim question, right? And he started out. This was just Sunday, and he said, you say that you don't have to respond to everybody who says something, and I agree with you on that. That's how he started his question. So Chuck Todd just interviewed Donald Trump after the biggest, gaffe that you could ever imagine, right? Some guy says, let's round up Muslims, and by the way, the president's a Muslim, and Trump says yes to both of them. Chuck Todd, the #1 political reporter in America, has him on his show, doesn't lay a fucking glove on him.
Yeah, you can curse.
Doesn't lay a glove on him.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, thanks for having. And then Donald Trump says, it was a pleasure. And do you know what Chuck Todd says? You bet.
Yeah.
That's what he says. So that's what's wrong with if you go, why do we have the biggest income disparity since the Gilded Age? Why do we only have 5 major media corporations in America when there used to be 50 in 1980? Why can't we get this straight, though? Why when we nationalize the banks, nobody calls it that? And that's because they're all bought and paid for by the same people. Read Manufacturing Consent.
All right. So I think your answer, the original question was, what about Bernie? And I think you got there in a long way, because he is talking about those things.
Yes.
So basically, do you think that the media just has a vested interest in really not showing him? So for example, the other day, Bernie and Trump were both giving speeches at the same time, and even MSNBC, which you'd think would be, they're supposed to lean forward, or I guess they did until 2 months ago. Now they lean backwards, or I'm not sure. But even they were covering Trump instead of covering Bernie. So can an outsider like Bernie ever really win?
If he is a little bit more fun. I mean,
So,
that's seriously the
Yeah.
answer. Why people love Trump, because he's fun.
Yeah.
You can make fun of him. It doesn't hurt his feelings, you know, and he is out of the box. But when it comes to Bernie, like they're going to have to start putting him on the Tonight Show, drinking wine with, you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I saw he did
They're
a
gonna have to do all
promo.
those.
He did a promo for the Nightly Show, and he said "on fleek," which you've ever heard Bernie Sanders say "on fleek." It was actually pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yes. So how much of that is it that he's the outsider guy? So he should be getting the first time Obama went around, he should be getting that excitement. But Bernie himself, he's a 70-something-year-old white guy from Vermont. Mm-hmm. He's not that exciting, and sadly,
can't find a
that's right. Like you should shave the sides, but you know what I mean. But really, like how much is just that maybe his person, sadly, in 2015 in America, that his personality doesn't match up in the way we want to vote for somebody, the way his rhetoric, which I think a lot of people agree with.
You know, it's funny that he's the big outsider on the left, and Trump is the big outsider on the right. And one of them spends zero time on their hair, and one of them spends all day long on their hair. I would like to ask Donald Trump, does he have a long-form birth certificate for that fucking hairpiece? Yeah. Anyway, so...
That thing definitely was not born in America.
No. Yeah. But the thing you talk about, so even MSNBC wasn't covering Bernie, right? Well, it's because MSNBC is not a liberal corporation. They're a corporation. By the way, through the whole Iraq War, MSNBC was owned by General Electric, which is a huge defense contractor. So the lefties were left getting their anti-war message from a fucking defense contractor,
right.
which is why they fired Phil Donahue, because he was against the war, and they kept Chris Matthews. And then they also just fired Ed Schultz because he's against the TPT, and Comcast is all for the TPT. So I always said this, they're not liberal. As soon as Rachel Maddow says something that costs Comcast money, they will fire her. And it's just an embarrassment to her that they haven't.
Well, for the record, Ora has told me I can say anything I want.
Oh, fantastic.
So that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I mean, it should be an embarrassment to them. And if you watch the channel like I do, you see that they're corporatists. They're not, especially Chris Hayes. He couldn't be worse.
Yeah. All right. So my last thought on this is, does he have any chance? Does Bernie have any chance? My feeling is no, unfortunately. And I know people are going to give me shit for saying that, because if they'll say to me, if you say no, that causes people to get depressed about it, and then they're not going to vote. Unfortunately, I think that it's very clear to me that the party is not going to back him. They simply will not back him, and that's why people are talking about Biden, because I think Hillary probably will flame out, and they're going to go with Biden. And it's like, you guys are the big party that's
He
supposed
already
to be
lost twice.
Minorities and women and everything else, and we're going to pick the VP, who's just another old white guy.
Why don't they embrace Bernie? Is it because he is an independent and he railed so hard against both Democrats and Republicans?
I think they genuinely think he won't win. I think they think he can't, that a liberal, from someone that far on the left from the Northeast, just can't win the middle of the country.
I think,
bring us home.
No, I think the reason why the Democratic Party hasn't rallied around Bernie is because he's not in bed with the big money donors. And so the Democratic Party no longer responds to their voters. They only respond to their donors. And so their donors are telling them, get rid of this guy. Right? We got to get rid of that guy somehow. The donors want nothing to do with Bernie because they can't control him, just like the donors don't want anything to do with Donald Trump because they can't control him. So in that sense, they're very much alike, and that's exactly what's happening. We do live in a banana republic where we don't really have a responsive government. I mean, the Sandy Hook taught us anything. 90% of the people in America wanted some kind of gun legislation, and we didn't get it. So no longer do our representatives represent our interests. They only represent the donors, and that's why Bernie's winning, and that's why he gets 30,000 people when he shows up to speak.
That's how you end a segment.